Welcome to Wines We Drink, a podcast for wine lovers and learners. I'm Charlotte Norsworthy Varnum, and together with my counterpart Keith Herndon, we'll be exploring a new wine each week. Keith is a lover of wine, and I'm a learner of wine, and we hope you'll sip along with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wines We Drink, a podcast where we open a bottle of wine, drink it, and talk about it. I'm Charlotte Varnum, and here with me is my co-host Keith Herndon, a certified wine sommelier.
Charlotte, it is so great to be with you today, along with our wonderful listeners, as we bring the second episode of our sixth season to life.
And bring it to life we will. Today's wine is fantastic, and from a place in France with lots of history.
Yes, today's selection was inspired by the journey me and my wife took to France last year, exploring several of its storied wine regions. And today's selection is simply an exquisite rosé from the Côtes-du-Rhône. I can't wait to open it, talk about it, and get this episode started.
Yes, we launched our sixth season last week with a bit of a twist. It was a pre-made wine spritzer that has so much going for it with today's wine drinkers. It's low alcohol, it sells for a great price, and it's ready to drink. It's a great party beverage for those who are pressed for time but would like to offer something a bit different and still has a nice high quality feeling to it. So to learn more about last week's spritzer or to listen to any of our episodes from all 5 previous seasons, please find us out on all of the major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We also have a full episode guide available at wineswedrink.com.
Great, Charlotte. Now let's get back to today's wine selection.
Yes.
When most wine drinkers think of a French rosé, they're likely to recall those wonderful salmon-hued wines from Provence and the south of France. But today we're going for a different vibe, right? There's certainly nothing not to like about a Provence rosé, right? But our version from the Côtes-du-Rhône is slightly darker and more robust than the rosés of nearby Provence.
Hey folks, it's a pink wine, and if you've listened to this podcast in past seasons, you already know that I like pink wines, okay? But one that's slightly darker and robust, those are different vocabulary words that we use to describe rosé, and it looks like this one's not going to disappoint.
No, although Provence rosé may be a bit more famous, this style of wine is quite common in the Côtes-du-Rhône. In fact, rosé now accounts for 10% of the region's production.
Wow.
And as rosé wines continue to increase in popularity around the world, I think you'll see that percentage increase a bit more in the coming years.
And as that production increases, they're paying more attention to the quality of their rosé wines, aren't they?
Absolutely. That's what impressed me so much about the region as we cruised down the Rhône River on our long boat tour. Every person we encountered from the wine trade wanted to know if we liked their wine.
Aww.
You know, this is not a place that has the attitude of we'll produce it and they will drink it. You know, just kind of the opposite. The winemakers were genuinely interested in what consumers want, and they are willing to listen to what's happening in the marketplace.
Wow, what a great reflection. And so it sounds like we'll be drinking more Côtes-du-Rhône wines in the future then.
I think so, especially their rosé.
So could you give our listeners the background on the specific wine we're drinking today?
Well, you know me in wine history, right? If I have a choice between a new maker or one with history, I'm probably going to be choosing the one with a history lesson to go with it. Today's selection from Domaine de Châteaumour fits the history lesson, right? Fits the bill. This estate dates to the 11th century.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll say the history box is certainly checked.
You know, through several generations, this estate's vines have been cultivated without any pesticides or herbicides by a father and son team in the Souret family. Today, Jean-Félix and Frédéric Souret manage the estate's 37 acres, which are located near Orange in the heart of the Côtes-du-Rhône.
It's so interesting that this winery's commitment to sustainability dates back generations.
The families at Domaine Châteaumour, they were farming organically long before anybody coined the phrase sustainable agriculture. It's simply the family's approach to this minimal intervention in the agriculture process and in the winemaking process, and it goes back through several generations.
So let's get into the details of today's bottle. What's in there?
Well, this is a blend of 2 of the region's famous grapes. It's 80% Grenache and 20% Mourvèdre. This wine is from 30-year-old vines grown in clay and limestone soils on a gently sloping hill that rises to about 350 feet. So certainly not a high elevation location.
Yeah, but it does conjure up that quintessential picture of a vineyard when you say a gently sloping hill. It's a bit of wine poetry.
Well, you're not wrong about that. I mean, everywhere we went along the Rhone River was poetic. And the people, as I mentioned before, were so caring about their land and what it produces. I mean, the winemakers for today's bottle, hand harvested the grapes and selected and sorted them all by hand.
That's so impressive. So let's talk about that color that you mentioned earlier. We haven't poured our glasses yet, but I can see and you can see from the clear glass bottle that this rosé is a much deeper pink than the color of a rosé from, say, nearby Provence. What's behind that?
Yes, at Domaine Chetamar, the winemakers are leaning into the flavor profiles of their fruit. They intentionally wanted to impart more of those flavor compounds from the skin. So where a rosé from Provence may see the grape skins touch the juice for 2 to 4 hours, our wine used an extended maceration method where the red grape skins were in contact with the juice for about 36 hours, and that extracted more color and flavor.
Yeah, so instead of just a kiss from the skin, they really got more acquainted. And that extra time certainly makes for that deeper pink, so that makes sense. So I guess now it's time to try some of this wine. Keith, would you pour us a couple of glasses?
Yes, but one more thing for our listeners to know before we get into this. The minimalist approach in the vineyard continues in the winery. The wine is fermented only with natural yeast and then allowed to settle in stainless steel tanks for about 6 months before they bottled at the estate, right? So now I think we have the full picture of what's in the bottle. Let's drink some of it.
That
right?
sounds great. Now we've got the whole poetry here.
Yeah, so I've already cut the foil on this top of this bottle. So let me get the cork out.
There we go. A little satisfying pop.
Okay, so I will pour your glass, Charlotte.
Thank you. So gentlemanly.
There we go.
Thank you. And as you're pouring it in the glass there, you can really appreciate that deeper color. It's got a different character to it than what we're used to with rosé.
Yes, an official specification sheet that I saw for this wine referred to it as rose petal pink. And that's quite appropriate, I think, the way this wine shimmers in the glass.
I mean, the poetry continues. So, I didn't need to see your spec sheet to pick up on those intense aromas, too, from the wine. I mean, just as you were pouring the glasses and even as I'm sitting here holding it in my glass, I'm being greeted with strawberries, raspberries, peaches. I mean, it's bursting out of the glass right now.
Yes, the red fruits and stone fruits are pronounced in this wine. Really marvelous smells that just invite you into the glass.
That's a great way to put it. And as I keep going in for more smells, I'm also picking up on some earthy notes that feel like it's kind of grounding it a little bit.
Yeah, yes, and there's a bit of a peppery base that comes together with some fresh minerality. Again, it's an inviting wine. You smell it, you can't wait to taste it.
Yeah, I'll say. I think it's past time for us to get in for that taste. I'm going in at least.
And I'm going to join you.
Let's do it. Oh my goodness. Wow. Those flavors are so just lush. The smells of those strawberries and raspberries, they weren't just aromas. They are on your tongue at the very first sip. And oh my gosh, what a juicy sip that was. I'm going in for a second. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely just feeling like boom, strawberry. How delicious is that?
But you know what I'm getting on the palate that I wasn't getting on the nose?
Let me see if I can guess. I think I know what you're going to say. Hints of cherry?
For sure.
Okay.
Not overpowering, but a subtle cherry that is well integrated into the wine's acidity, right? I'm going to go in for my other sip here.
Yeah, absolutely. That hint of cherry is certainly carrying all the way through. It's a long finish on this wine. This isn't a wimpy rosé by any means. It's got some legs to it. It's got some oomph. You used that word robust earlier to describe today's wine, and I agree. It's a robust rosé. I never thought I'd say that.
Yes, and the critics agree as well on this. Wine Searcher puts this bottle in its rich and fruity category. Right.
Well, that's where it belongs. It's rich and it's fruity, and it comes in at only 13% alcohol by volume, which to me was a surprise. It's an excellent choice for our second episode of this sixth season. I really benefit from the selections inspired by your wine travels.
Well, it didn't take too much inspiration to select this bottle for today's show. After all, it's a crowd pleaser. The consumer ratings on the Vivino app give it 4.1 out of 5 stars, which places it among the top 3% of wines in the world.
Wow, that's such an awesome rating. And so for a wine of this quality, how much does it cost?
Well, our listeners should be able to find this at around $23,
Wow.
which was the going price at the time of our recording. And here's something to consider. We talk about price to quality ratio on the podcast a lot. Well, this is a wine that underscores that concept. The Vivino app listed as one of its, quote, great value for the money, end quote, wines. They say that wines of this similar quality usually cost 43% more.
43%. Wow. I mean, then yeah, that is an exceptional wine to offer. It's certainly affordable, again, especially for that robustness. It's delicious. It has a deep family history behind it, an 11th century estate, and it's sustainably farmed and minimally produced. There's lots of boxes getting checked for our listeners today.
Yes, but we have one more big box to check for our listeners. At this price point and quality, this wine is an easy decision for your next party. But what are you going to serve with it? Well, if you stay with us and return after the break, my delightful co-host will shift into her alter ego, Chef Charlotte, and will tell you exactly what you need to create the perfect pairing for this wine.
Yes, that was a great tee up. Please join us after the break, and I'll share what I've been cooking up in the kitchen. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Welcome back, everyone. You found us today for our second episode in the sixth season of Wines We Drink. We like to call this our summer fun project. And for me, the real fun is about to begin. We're now in the portion of the show that features our co-host as Chef Charlotte. And she's created an amazing dish to pair with today's wine.
Oh, thank you for that, Keith. It's been such a blast to collaborate with you on the wines we're featuring this season and to come up with ideas for the dishes we're going to pair with them. And today's wine is especially fun to work with.
Well, Charlotte, there's nothing you can't cook.
Wow.
Right? Every morsel you've ever shared with me has been a culinary delight. Even some lasagna that you made for me once when I was recovering from an illness. So I'm so happy, to get to experience you in this Chef Charlotte hat this season. We get to share your cooking skills with our audience as you create and share some of these wonderful dishes. So let's get started with today's pairing.
Let's do it. But before we get into the main dish, let's talk about cheese first. So wine and cheese, they're kind of natural pairs at the bigger picture level. But to get the cheese right with a specific wine, here's what you do. You consider the wine's flavor profile, which we've already talked about. Its acidity, its body, its texture. Is it dry? Is it sweet? And there are endless possibilities, right? And so at the end of the day, you have to like it, period. That's the most important criterion. Does it taste good to you?
So what cheese did you suggest that tastes good with this wine?
So I'm going to go with feta today. It's salty, it's got a slight tang to it, and I think that those two notes play really well with the wine's acidity, the minerality, and those really rich red fruit notes that are in this one.
Sounds like a match. Now I'm eager to talk about and then get to eat your main pairing with today's rosé.
Well, the well-integrated acidity that we talked about is the key that allows this wine to retain its sturdy balance and freshness throughout that long finish. So we need a dish that, in my opinion, leans into that. So today what I've got for you is I've prepared a flatbread with prosciutto and peaches, and there's a little balsamic glaze drizzled on there as well.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a winner. So tell our listeners a little bit more about this specific dish.
Yes. So similar in approach to last week's episode, this week's pairing is all about simple ingredients coming together in a perfect harmony. So I've gone in and just selected a favorite store-bought rectangular flatbread, all right? Brushed it with some butter and garlic before crisping it up in the oven. I then pulled it out and sliced it into individual portions to try to make it easier to handle, and topped it with some fresh summer juicy peaches, which are perfectly in season right now. I've shredded a piece of salty prosciutto on top and a drizzle of some balsamic glaze and a little bit of fresh parsley. Some fresh basil would also be good on here too for some of those aromatics. There's lots of textures and temperatures going on here to complement today's selection. And of course as well, our go-to cheese, feta.
Well, I'm ready to have a taste and sip some wine with this.
Well, let's go for it.
Okay, so let me have a little bite here. Oh, this is beautiful on the plate.
It is a nice, a good visual. It's impressive to serve at a party or a function.
Those peaches just look wonderful. There's an explosion of salty from the prosciutto, and that bit of sweetness from the peaches, and then this tanginess from the balsamic vinegar. It's a lot of complex flavors here for such a simple dish. So now for a bite with the sip of the wine.
Yes, and so as you pair the two, keep this in mind. The crisp, refreshing acidity of that dry rosé is going to kind of balance out that intense saltiness and fat of the cured meat, and then same with the saltiness from the feta.
Right, you're so right. I mean, the saltiness sort of drifts into the distance, right? So I'm going for another bite. You're joining me in this, right?
Oh, of course.
Yes. Right.
That's the best part about having cooking as a hobby, is you get to eat it.
I wasn't sure at first about how those vibrant fruit notes would work with the peaches, but the wine complements the natural sweet flavors of the peaches in just the right way. I mean, you nail that aspect of the pairing.
Oh, thank you. I do love a salty sweet combo. And what did you think about that touch of the balsamic glaze on top? I think it's an important kind of finisher to the dish, a liaison. It brings it all together.
Yes, I see what you were doing there. The glaze brings a complex tang of its own, right? And that matches the wine's acidity, and it creates this harmony that just works.
Yep, and that salty sweet, I felt like adding that tangy element that also has some of those earthy notes in it too was kind of necessary to ensure that this pairing doesn't leave the wine tasting too flat. And all of those components really come together with purpose.
Indeed. Chef Charlotte, you have created a salty, sweet, tangy treat, that makes this a classic summer pairing. I mean, what we always talk about is trying to use food to elevate the wine.
Right.
Right? And your dish elevates the refreshing nature of our rosé, and it just makes the whole experience come together and so enjoyable. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a lot of fun finding the right combination of ingredients to, like you said, bring it all together and allow each dish to shine equally.
Well, as I have one more bite here and one more sip of this wine, all right, it's time to bring this segment with Chef Charlotte to a close. It's been fantastic. This is only episode 2.
I know.
For the season, and I can't wait to sample another Chef Charlotte creation next week.
And I'm already on it. So, could you please tell our listeners where we're headed next week?
Yes, Charlotte. Sorry, I'm still eating this wonderful
That's
flatbread.
okay. I know.
Well, for episode 3, we're featuring another wine that rises from a minimalist approach. But we won't be in France. We're taking our listeners to Napa Valley in California. And yes, Charlotte, before you even go there, next week's selection was inspired by one of my many trips to Napa, to my happy place.
Of course.
And it's one of my favorite wineries there.
Okay, well, I wouldn't expect anything less than more of Keith's wine journey inspiration is coming at us next week. We can't lose.
Well, thanks, Charlotte. Until next week, cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to Wines We Drink. Listen to our other episodes anywhere you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Wines We Drink, and check out our episode guides at wineswedrink.com. Cheers.